look each other in the eyes and tell the truth about what has happened and what is happening, we're not going to be able to transform what will happen in the future.
Okay.
And the main thing is that you can't heal a wound if you don't acknowledge it. So here in Arkansas, on next week, Tuesday, the 21st of January, the day after Martin Luther King Day, we will be hosting the inaugural celebration or observance of the National Day of Racial Healing here in Arkansas. It hasn't really been observed here. The Clinton School has given out racial equity awards, but that's been campus specific, so nothing outside of that campus has been done until now. And just last week, Governor Asa Hutchinson issued a proclamation naming the day after Martin Luther King Day as the National Day of Racial Healing here in the state of Arkansas.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's the first governor in the United States that's ever done that.
Governor Hutch.
Yes.
That's what's up. Not all Democrats are bad. Not all Democrats are bad. I mean, not all Republicans are bad. I'm sorry. I was saying it right the first time. I was saying it both times.
You see my face?
I see your face. Okay. So tell me something. So you're having this on the 21st. So are there other events to come after this?
So we'll talk more about what the event, how in detail what the event will, what events happen on the 21st and the 22nd. So it's a 2-day event, but we have a 15-month-long campaign. We are ACJMN is partnering with the Equal Justice Initiative out of Montgomery, Alabama. Brian Stevenson. Attorney Brian Stevenson's organization. And our goal is to take this 15-month campaign and memorialize those who were victims of racial terror lynchings here in the state of Arkansas.
Okay. And we're particularly going to concentrate on Pulaski County.
Yes.
Pulaski County specific.
Yes.
Yes, because we want other organizations, and there are probably about 5 right now in different counties that are getting together to form coalitions, and that's kind of how the Equal Justice Initiative would like it to be. And we, of course, we want people in their own counties and communities to take the lead on this particular journey in memorializing those. And so there are about a handful of counties that are on board and are already doing the work. And so we are just...
Can you give us a couple of counties?
Sure.
It's Garland County,
Sebastian.
Hot Spring County, Sebastian County, Craighead County, Jefferson County, and Washington County.
Okay.
Those are the counties that are in the process of doing.
So will everybody have like a site where you can go see about all the lynchings, or how is
Yeah,
that?
so the thing that the Equal Justice Initiative started was they have a museum. It's mass incarceration, enslavement to mass incarceration, and in that what they have inside are soil collection,
Okay.
and the soil collection is where the lynching actually happened or in that area.
Okay.
And so it's collecting the soil of the victim, and it's done with the family, so it's like a ceremony. And they take one, we put one in a museum here that we designate, and it goes, the second one goes to the third one, well, the first one actually goes to the family, so
Okay.
that's more important. And then the other 2 go with EJI and us.
Okay.
That's one thing. And then there are markers. If you've seen markers, ever seen a marker put up where, and I'm sure you guys have, where they have the history of the victim, the name and everything, and possibly even the face, a picture. And it memorialized, and I think it's very important that we make sure we are humanizing the victims, because they were not. during the time of the murders and the killing. So that's what they're doing. When the markers go up in the area or in the vicinity of the lynching, we are working on the first marker, and that's the marker of John Carter.
My man.
That's the first one
Yes.
that will be going up.
And, you know, we know the story of John Carter and what happened at 9th and Broadway.
Right.
But that's not where he was lynched. He
Right.
was actually lynched out at 12th and Canis in that area. So the marker that we're going to be putting up will be outside of the Haven of Rest Cemetery.
Okay.
And that's where we'll be installing that marker.
And that has been, we've talked to the owner, we have to do that,
Right.
that process, talk with the ownership. And, the owner of the Haven West is 100% on board with
Okay.
the process and what we need to do to erect the marker. And, EJI helps out a lot in that they create the marker, and they ship the marker, and we
At no
just,
cost to us.
at no cost,
Oh,
and
okay.
we just, paid cost to,
Erect it.
right, to install it, but, they do the rest.
Let me ask you a question, okay? We've had John Carter's family on the show,
Yes, sir.
and one of the most moving shows that I've ever seen. Plus, prior to getting them on the show, I went back and researched the story. Given the fact that he was lynched out on 12th, and his body was dismembered on 9th and Broadway, why not put a marker there as well?
So the plan is because the Mosaic Templars, also in partnership with, I believe, the King Commission, are already working on some
With
type
something
of
at their
plaque
corner.
or marker at the 9th Street area.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we want to let them, you know, we've
Fine,
already told them
fine.
we're in partnership with them, and they're a part of the coalition. So they've already been working on that, so we want to allow them to do that. So it's connected to the one that we'll be putting on 12th Street. And, yeah, so for us, the families of the victims' participation is very important. So that's something we're definitely involved in, is contacting the relatives of the family members, and not just having something for the community and not directly connect families to.
Have you all contacted the Carter family already?
We have talked
Oh.
to John Carter's grandson, Kwame has been
Okay.
contacted
Yes,
with.
and if you have more contacts, we can.
Yes.
Okay.
We-
The best people to get the contact information is the Mosaic Templars.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, the connection between those two sites, 9th and Broadway and 12th and Canis, the story is that after the actual incident where with the horse happened up on John Barrow, and he was chased down to 12, what's now 12th and Canis. He was lynched there and then drugged on the back of a car up to Markham, and then all the way down Markham, past the police station, past City Hall to Broadway, and then to 9th and Broadway. So what we're planning on doing is, after we erect the marker at 12th and Canis, we plan on having a procession from the 12th and Canis site to the 9th and Broadway site, and a New Orleans style second line procession. And then once we get to the corner, there will be additional programming at the Mosaic Templars Cultural Center. And then that's where they, along with the King Commission, will erect their own
Great.
marker.
Okay.
Okay.
Of the victims that, well, just off the top of your head, how many people do y'all know how many people were actually lynched in Little Rock proper?
According to the Equal Justice Initiative, there are two factors for them, or identifiers for them. For the state of Arkansas, they have, according to them, 492.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Okay.
for the state of Arkansas.
For the-
It's
For the state of Arkansas.
For the
Yes,
state.
the
It's-
third highest.
It's the third highest state for lynchings, but we work with historians, some of which are Dr. Brian Mitchell and Guy Lancaster and Griff Stockley and a few other. There are tons of historians that we've been actually working with that have done this history and know the history behind it. There's more than 492, there's about 500
So can you give us just a couple?
or so.
Well, I want to answer
Oh,
his
okay.
question. So in Pulaski County, the number is 27.
27.
Then when you get to Little Rock proper, the number for Little Rock proper is 3 in Little Rock proper, and 1 in Argenta, 1 out in Crystal Hill, 1 out in Landmark, and that was a 10-year-old boy out in Landmark. He was lynched, taken from an elementary school and lynched. So,
Well, I'd be interested in hearing that story.
Is that Homer?
no,
No.
Homer Blackman
That's
is
not Homer.
Argenta. That's Jim
Jim
Sanders.
Sanders.
And Jim Sanders, he was helping his teacher clean his elementary school out in Landmark, East End area. And for some reason or another, she screamed. Somebody ran in to save her from this little black boy, and they lynched him.
What?
Yes.
Why did she scream?
No one knows.
What year was this?
This was in 1878.
Along with the 21 are the Riceville boys.
I was going to ask you that
Yes,
question.
they're in
Yeah.
that list.
They're
27.
part of that, of the 27, actually. They were, had a memorial last year, you guys heard of,
Right.
or actually went, last year, and it was their families. Dr. Brian Mitchell had done a lot of work, and also, Griff Stockley, who has a book called Black Boys Burning. If you want to know more information about that, you would want to read that book, and also you can look it up in the encyclopedia, Arkansas Encyclopedia.
Encyclopedia of
Yes,
Arkansas.
I'm sorry, the Encyclopedia of Arkansas, where you can get more information about that. But we are honoring and memorializing them as a part of the Pulaski County veterans.
But why would you memorialize them? That was an accident.
Not according to. There's no way there was, it's negligence and also, intentional, just, if you, and you know the story, and I know you've been the devil's advocate right now.
Well, would I do that?
The way you looked at me, but there is no way that these young men were, it was an accident, that they were burned alive. And if it's due to negligence, that's still,
Lynching by fire.
it definitely is, and so, we want to be able to, and it's been proven that it wasn't an accident. But we want to make sure that we also go behind that and continue to let the families know, even if they have a placard marker, that we see them and that we understand, and that their loved ones' lives are valuable and they're valued even today, and the importance of that.
And just for the record, when I was down at River Market a couple of weeks ago, I happened to be walking by and I see these plaques on the ground, and to me that was the most disrespectful thing in the world. For me, yeah, I don't think it's respectful to put stuff on the ground. I mean, something like that to me. And this, forgive me, this is just my feelings.
No.
What plaques are you talking about?
No,
first?
it's
The
fine.
plaques for the little rock for the
Elaine.
Elaine 12.
No, was it the Elaine 12?
Yeah, Elaine 12.
It's a 12.
So yeah, they put those on the ground, and to me, it's like just a symbolism, right? You don't see a lot of black people down at River Market. It's mostly white people, and people just walking over it. So I mean, it's almost like just walking over your history again.
You know, I never thought
And
of
so
it.
to me, that was
never really,
disrespectful.
with it being on the ground, you don't even recognize that it's there.
You don't even know, you don't even see it.
That's
To me, it's just like another insult. It's just like adding fire to just pouring gas on the fire. But that's just me.
No, that's
So,
good, because I never thought of it like that. I thought, I guess my thing was finally something has been done.
Yeah, but you put them on the ground.
Right, and it's been recognized, and it's in a heavily trafficked area. That was my thought, but I see your point, and I definitely understand
Yeah,
it. Like,
if you put it somewhere else,
Yeah.
I mean, and when I say somewhere else, I mean a place that's that
A place of reverence.
Yeah, somewhere that
not
doesn't have a lot of
on the
traffic. Like if you did it at the state capitol around the that statue they have for the Little Rock, was it the Little Rock Nine?
Yes.
yes.
If you did it around that statue, it makes sense to me, right? That's totally different.
Yeah.
But down there, it's like you're telling me you're giving me the favor. That's how I felt when I looked at it, because I was standing there going,
That's
Really?
good. That's good though. That's a different
but-
perspective.
Yeah,
Never-
but that's me.
Well, I rarely go to the river market anyway because ain't nothing down there for us.
Okay.
But you know, Robert, that's a good example of this Peace and Justice Memorial Movement. What's different than I think a lot of other efforts that have gone on in the state in the past is that one of the primary goals of this effort is to make this a community effort where we are not just putting up markers, but we're also using this as a chance to have a community dialogue and a conversation. So we're going to have, in addition to the marker ceremonies and the soil collection ceremonies, we're going to have several events where we're bringing folks together to have, and we're going to be very intentional about it, not just bringing folks together that always have these conversations, but bringing folks that look like me. And to your lucky audience who can't see me, I'm a white dude. And there's a lot of white people like me who are not part of this conversation, whether they intentionally aren't part of it or they just don't realize this conversation's out there. So we want to make sure that, because that's a great point, I never thought about that either. And that's something that should be, that's part of a conversation that should be happening and why you feel that way. And people like me need to be hearing that and we need to be in conversation about that. So that's going to be a big part, too, of the Peace and Justice Memorial Movement.
Let me ask you a quick question. One of my listeners, Latanya Grimes, she travels all over Arkansas. Do y'all know Latanya? Okay.
Possibly.
But she travels all over Arkansas. She's a big historian, and she just mentioned something that I knew nothing about. She said, "I heard about a place called Inward Hill." Have y'all heard about that?
Well, there are actually, I think, a total of 7 cities in Arkansas that have the name nigger in the name of the city, and she's correct. Nigger Hill is one of them, but there's actually a total of 7 cities in Arkansas with that name.
Okay, interesting.
Donald mentioned sitting down and having conversations, and
Okay, so that's the coming to the table piece. One of the other pieces of what we're doing is called Coming to the Table. Coming to the Table is a nonprofit organization that was started by the white and black descendants of Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings. And what they decided to do about 10 years ago is they decided to intentionally create a safe environment where people can come and sit at the table and have real meaningful discussions on the issue of race here in America, and do it in a way where they can get up from the table and actually do something productive and meaningful. So we have established the first ever Arkansas affiliate of Coming to the Table. So as a part of this 15-month process, we're going to start having monthly dialogues where people can actually come and have these discussions. We started it, we actually had an elder white man who's an executive of a company here in Central Arkansas, that he went to the EJI lynching museum in Montgomery, and he was so moved by what he saw is he asked them, well, I'm from Little Rock, what can I do?
Right.
And they gave him our telephone number.
Okay.
And so he got back and he called us, and we've been sitting down with him and a couple of his friends like every 4 or 5 weeks, just to have 2-hour conversations. And he just got back to the United States this morning, and he called me and he said, hey, I got about 10 more guys that look like me and act like me and live out in Chenal that now want to sit down and participate in these conversations.
That's cool. That's cool.
Good.
That's cool. All right, so I'm loving this. So you said, so we got 15 months of this, right?
Yes.
So if you will, I know we got the National Day of Racial Healing. Kind of walk us through all the events if you can. I like that, Jack. Cowboys, dog.
Man, we try to be serious here. Y'all talking about a stupid football team.
Hey, hold on, man. Don't do that. Don't say stupid. Y'all gonna have to excuse us for this.
Okay. So, while y'all are looking that information up, how are you all disseminating the information to people, and how can people locally get involved in this?
okay, one way is radio. So we're really happy that we're able to sit here and talk with you. Kwame and I actually have a show on KVF called at 2 p.m. on every Tuesday called J Stone Venture Soul, where we
Shameless
disseminate.
Shameless plug.
Not
I
trying
like
to,
that.
I did not
that's
try to,
cool.
sorry,
No.
Joynette, I didn't try to do it. But I'm just letting people know that we've been use that platform to do things.
And tell us the name again and what time?
Sure, go ahead. It's after this show.
After that show, it's cool. Weekdays, man, that's you.
It's every Tuesday from 2 to 3 at KBF. It's called Jade Stone Venture Soul.
Okay.
And so we try to use that. We've been using social media a lot.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I've been getting your Kwame's harassing posts.
yeah, okay. Every other minute.
What's this Kwame
Every
Abdul
other
Bey?
yeah.
Just let him send me one more post. One more.
So you asked about some of the other events. So after the National Day of Racial Healing, which is January 21st, 22nd, National Freedom Day is February 1st. Kwame, you want to talk a little bit about National Freedom Day? Just
Well,
how-
National Freedom Day, February 1st, 1866, excuse me, was the day that the 13th Amendment was passed and ratified, where slavery was abolished, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So that day is actually a national holiday, but it's not celebrated. It's not observed in most of the states. It's only observed like in Maryland and Virginia.
Okay.
So we're going to bring the observance here
Okay. That's cool.
to Arkansas.
And then after that, February 1st through the 28th, there's a 28-day racial equity challenge that we want to do, and we'll probably do that through social media.
Racial equity challenge.
Challenge, yes.
Okay.
to
Give
get-
us a little bit.
Well, to get you guys thinking about, and this is you guys as the audience and you, about what will you do to create racial equity? How will you go about initiating it and having conversations? And I'm getting real crazy. Because they're like, I'm not doing nothing.
Do I look like that?
I'll tell you.
Well, I was just gonna say that we'll make sure to provide you all, provide your listeners with a link to our website,
Yes.
Arkansas Peace and Justice Memorial Movement, which will have a
Mhm,
calendar
the
of events.
challenges,
And
yeah.
we go public with a press release this week, and then of course next week is the official public launching of the event with the National Day of Racial Healing. So you'll start to see it in JCA. You know, there'll be everything on our social media. So we have a large statewide outreach too. You'll see all that information. And with every event that we do, we'll be collecting people's contact information. We're going to have kind of a three-tiered volunteer structure, and the coalition being anybody who's willing and able and has a heart for doing this work and be part of the coalition.
Hey, Don, tell me something. So tell me why just communities are a part of this thing. I mean, how does this tie into what y'all do?
You know, at the core, JCA is building communities that are just, that are equitable, that are inclusive. But really, and I tell people what JCA does, we help people get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Okay.
And that's what kind of I see our role as JCA in this as a partner, is helping with those community conversations and building kind of the atmosphere, space, however you want to say it, at these events, to get people to a place where they can lean into having these conversations again, especially people like myself. You know, Clatsop County's full of white progressive liberals who definitely have the heart in the right place, but intent does not always equal impact.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that they're doing the work they need to be doing to address racial equity. And so we want to make sure that we can get people comfortable with these, but also in a place where they can ease into that, discomfort, and then start to build what we call that inclusive muscle, that inclusive stamina, so they can start now being more advocates and more of allies, to people of color, especially black people in our community. So that's where JCA's role is kind of facilitating those difficult conversations.
What response, if any, or have you all reached out to the white evangelical community?
You know what?
Birds.
Crickets and birds. At this point, what we've been doing, because we haven't really we started unofficially our coming to the table, not planning on it, but it actually started happening for us. But we haven't really sat down and focused on coming to the table just yet, and that's part of reaching out to those organizations and also religious groups to see if they possibly would like to come to the table and have conversations. We have not. reached out to them because we have been so busy with this work and trying to make sure that we start the process of memorializing victims of racial terror lynching, that we have not reached out about coming to the table piece, but that is in progress.
Well, that's in progress, and at the same time, on next Wednesday, the 22nd, at the Ron Robinson Theater, we will be having an event where we are doing a free screening of the HBO documentary True Justice, and that will be followed by an interfaith panel discussion where we have faith leaders from different denominations and different religions, different backgrounds as far as ethnicity, as far as location in the city. They will all be on the same stage talking about how can we move towards truth, racial healing, and transformation.
Yes, and that's gonna be great.
Another question. I don't mean to be the contrarian here,
No,
but
please.
based on your work that you've been doing, and look, I'm 58 years old, and yeah, I know I look a little pretty hot and tempting, you know. Don't hate, man, don't hate. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten more frustrated with racial healing
Yes.
and the thought of racial healing.
Yes.
And what do you say to a person like me who, based on prima facie evidence in the White House today and what's been going on the last 3 years, that racial healing is not attainable in this country?
Well, yeah, that is heavy. One from my
Now, let me be clear.
Please.
It's not that I don't want it,
Yes.
because I've worked quite a bit of my life to try to bring it forward. But after a while, I've gotten jaded to believe that
Yes.
it's not possible because, as I've said, when the thing happened in Charlottesville, those were young white males. Okay, those were not old white males. So that means that those young white males have been taught their racial insensitivity, and I'm being kind.
Yes.
Okay, so if that generation, that is 2 generations behind me, is still fostering racism and bigotry, how can I believe that sitting down at the table with people that don't look like me is going to make a difference?
Okay. Did you want to tackle?
Well,
It sounded like you had something to say.
well, first and foremost, I actually had a conversation with a young white female just last week who learned about our work, and she contacted us, and she identified herself as the great-granddaughter of Nathan Bedford. And she talked about how important it was to get those white people that you just talked about actually to the table and talking. And she said, I want to sit down with you guys because I am so embarrassed by my own legacy that I want to find out how we can get these people that you just mentioned actually to the table. And that's one of the things that we are looking and trying to figure out. How can we talk to them? I remember when I was in my 20s and I hosted a show at KBF called Fat Lip Youth Talk Radio. And there was a rumor about a weekly Klan meeting at the Denny's out on Shackelford every Wednesday evening. And I heard that rumor for all while I was in high school and when I was in college. And one day I just decided, hey, I'm just going to show up to the meeting. So I went out there at the day and at the time.
There's a movie in there somewhere.
Mississippi Burn.
A comedy bit somewhere. I can see you showing up. Well, I just had all kinds of
Hey, I can't tell you, it was very quiet when I walked in the room. It was very quiet because they like, are you lost? And I'm like, no, I'm here for the Klan meeting.
No.
Seriously.
You really said that?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And interestingly enough, there's 3 gentlemen from that that I met at that meeting that I'm still friends with today.
I really don't work for the police department.
One of them is a former sheriff's
Yeah,
nephew.
there you go.
Makes sense.
There you go.
Okay.
Go ahead. Did you want to?
No, but what I just wanted to demonstrate is that basically what we have to do is we have to find some common ground. And first of all, the common ground is a class. And, you know, people need to realize that this is a class struggle more than it is a race struggle. And we're all getting bum rushed by these elite millionaires and billionaires. So that's the first thing, because you just talked about Charlottesville. I watched a documentary on the how Donald Trump became the president, and they talked about how he manipulated poor white people to believe that they had something in common with white billionaires and millionaires, and that's how the situation got to where it is.
Well, it actually goes back, and I'm looking for the quote because I just posted this, but it actually goes back to Lyndon Baines Johnson. And I'll find it here in a moment.
Of course you will. But I want to give you a number. If you want to get a bunch of Klansmen, I'm going to give you a number to call. You ready?
Okay, please.
501-374-9004.
9004?
Yeah.
Give his phone number.
No, what number is that?
That's
Tell
Little
them.
Rock.
That's
I knew it. I knew it. So,
Thank you, Donald passed me this, and I appreciate you passing me this, but I was just thinking of a quote, so you kind of tapped into my thoughts. Dr. Maya Angelou said on the Post of the Morning, history, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived, but if faced with courage, need not be lived again. And for us, that's true. Past is present, if not dealt, if not talked about, if not reconciled. And we hear the saying reconciliation a lot, but if you've never had to reconcile means to become friends again, or to be involved again in some type of intimate type of relationship like a friendship. But I don't know that we've ever had truly reconciliation. So we like to use the term conciliation because we are now trying
To become friends for the first time.
Friends truly for the first time. So for us, the conversation is important because if we don't, we try to do a lot of forward thinking and, Arkansas Little Rock, let's move forward, let's do these things, but you have to understand what we're facing right now happened in the past. That history has not been reconciled or conciled or even memorialized. So you have people who have been murdered, killed, all of those things, dehumanized, and they never ever received any type of closure, them or their families, to that terror that happened to them. And so we wonder, okay, so this is happening here and police here and there, are different situations. But if you study history, it was happening then.
yes.
There was never ever anything done to try to fix it, but it was just covered up, and we just moved forward, and we keep moving forward. But we have dead bodies along the way that have never been humanized, and that's a problem. At least for me, because
Yeah, I agree.
me and a lot of other people, because you can't do that. And I have, and all black people, most of us say, well, I have Indian or Native American roots, but I would like to say I do, and I do because I know for a fact. But in Native history or Native folklore, which is true, a person who was killed wrongly or murdered and never put to peace or memorialized, spirit just wonders. I mean, the energy and everything. So I don't want to get in the next, scare anybody, but it's a real, right, it's a real thing. The blood cries from the ground because it's never been recognized. And so I just think personally, because I'm speaking from a personal perspective, that it's very important that we deal with past history in order for us to truly move forward and try to do what the mayor's goal is for our city, and that is to unite Arkansas, unite Little Rock. we gotta come to the table before we try to unite. And uniting means recognizing the past.
Well, a lot of it is that this country has never even apologized for slavery, not even one iota, and that's part of the problem. Before you can reconcile, you've got to apologize, and you've got to be sincere. But the fear of that is that if they apologize, then they're admitting wrong, and then that opens up the floodgate for reparations, which I am for. I don't know what you all, but that should be done. But here's the Lyndon Johnson quote, and you talked about how things have been going on in the past and are still going on today. Lyndon Johnson made this quote: "If you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him somebody to look down on and he'll empty his pockets for you." So if you remember, Dr. King, he did all that marching, all that preaching about racial segregation and inequality and things of that nature. He was never killed. He was killed when he started talking about uniting the poor.
Yes.
So, exactly. So I say to you all is that be careful, because they understand, because the white power elite, as I call them, and that's Democrat and Republicans.
Say that one more time.
That's Democrat and Republicans. Let me just put it this way: a left wing and a right wing is part of the same bird.
Yes.
Okay, they pit us against one another to continue their profiteering on the backs of people, and when you start shaking that tree, they get real nervous. So just be aware of that, because here's Lyndon Baines Johnson. This was said back in the 60s. So that tells you how long this has been going on. Okay? So, and that's part of why I'm frustrated, because, I've been in this fight a long time, so, but anyway, just wanted to bring that
I
up.
just wanted to get that out.
I would like to say there is this thing happening between elders and younger generation that we have to come together in a way that what we understand. It's like folks like yourself who have been pushing for racial equity and inclusion in our communities and state, or even farther reaching, have become, and I don't want to use the word embittered, but I'm not talking about you. I'm saying I've seen that. Okay, somebody raise your hand.
Robert!
Right.
I'm all about segregation.
Yeah,
I ain't gonna lie.
yeah.
I'm down with it.
Embittered in the way
I'm down with it.
that they have closed. They've just closed up, and it's like you said. I'm tired of talking about it. I'm tired of talking about it. It's not going to change. I've heard the evils and everything, and but I remember I was reading a friend of mine, Don, was talking about how we have the passion, and they have you have the knowledge, and we have to combine the two in order for some things to happen. But if you guys just kind of close up and leave us, you know what I mean, and just say I already know the outcome, but you have all the wisdom and knowledge to help push us, because that conversation has to be had. And you can see this younger generation, they are calling their grandparents out. Some people that we actually talk with, gentlemen, we talk with, they are coming to us because their grandchildren are calling them supremacist and calling them racist. And it hurts them because they're calling them out, and because they've done it so long, they don't really realize that they actually are until it's brought up, because you don't have to function, you don't really have to know, and you don't really see your, and I was told not to use supremacy because it gives the power. Doctor told me that, and I'll have to get the name for that, but they don't really see that if you live like that day to day with no consequence and no issue.
Right.
But the grandchildren in this generation are saying, okay,
But
that's okay?
That's great, but here's I think where my jadism comes in,
Yes.
is that I graduated from Little Rock Central in,
Hell's a no-go.
in 79.
There you go.
It was 48% white, 52% black. Our graduation party was held out in Pleasant Valley, and back in that day, it wasn't a black butt out there anywhere. Okay, we had great white friends. I had great white friends. Time passed, and Facebook happened. And what happened on Facebook revealed to me some innate racism from white friends that I thought were cool. Just simply by reading their posts, the things that they say. And I'll never forget a year ago, a young lady that we were best of friends since 7th grade, a young white lady, young white girl at the time. And once we all, because our last names all ended in C, so we were always in the same homeroom from 6th grade through high school. Best of friends that came to all our games, this, that, and the other. And
Trump broke him up.
and then all of a sudden, she found me on Facebook, and the initial conversations were, great to see you, how you been doing, how's the kids, yada, yada, yada. But then as she began to read her post, I began to realize that, oh my God, the young lady that I was crazy about, my friend, is a bigot. And it frustrated me to no end. And a lot of people, even some of the guys that I played football with in college, seeing their post, even my best friend in college was white. He brought me home and slept in our bed at home, ate my mom's food. And when we lost contact and finally got back to contact on Facebook, oh my God, my friend is a bigot.
But that's personal experience, though, man. I mean, I think sometimes we take that to be.
But I'm not saying just me. A lot of my black friends have had this conversation as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's
I
what
got
has.
black friends that are bigots.
Well, I'm just saying from a racist standpoint,
Yeah.
that's what has frustrated a lot of people my age, is us beginning to realize, or people that we grew up with, that we loved, that we cared about, and to see some of how they've evolved, it's to me, it was
So
a bit
do
disconcerting.
you need them to hook up you one of these conversations where they have?
Oh
where
no,
they
I
have
might.
friends and everything
Come
else?
to the table.
I'm tearing up over here.
Yeah.
A teeny. You gotta, what this from.
I hear you on that. But I think the thing that's crazy to me is that, hey, I look at this from a totally political lens, right? And so when I'm looking at it from that lens, I'm looking at the politics of all this, and I'm not so much looking at all the events that they put on, because I think that's the thing that makes us go, oh, it's not, for me. I always say it's not real. You with me? And the reason I say it's not real is because while we had that conversation about the issue, if you're not talking about anything to address the issue,
Or how to
beyond
fix
that,
it.
yeah, beyond that, because while you're doing it, you still got kids who are not being educated properly. You still got people going to hospitals who aren't being treated and dying. I mean, all these issues still persist while we have the conversation. So for me, everybody laughs at me when I say I believe in segregation. I mean, I'm segregated now. So how can I not be for it, right? The only thing is I just don't get the money, right? But I'm segregated to some degree. And so everybody has these conversations, and we have the conversation. And I really hope this grows, because I love what y'all doing with having the conversation with people. But for me, it's far bigger than that.
Yes.
And I I'm trying to figure out a way to say this. The conversation itself is great, right? But for me, what's the action, and how do we address the problem? And if it's just one problem, just pick one thing and say, okay, look, we can't tackle everything.
Right.
But let's just tackle this one issue. Let's address this one issue. See how we can solve it. Because at the end of the day, the thing I love the most about events is that you have a great event. Everybody feels good. Everybody puts on their Facebook page,
Yeah.
to the racial cleansing.
Oh God,
And
no.
we said some really great things. And, I want to tell you what this black guy said just really moved me.
Right.
And it made me realize how screwed up I am. And I'm going to do better. right? Then
Yeah.
still,
There's no action.
there's no action behind it.
Yeah, and what this is a process. This is a process where it's like throwing a pebble into the ocean.
Right.
You start seeing the ripple effect. That's the great thing about having Just Communities with us to be able to give us the training that we need to actually take these conversations and the things that come from these conversations and actually do something
Right.
with it. And that's what we're all about. You know, my wife is always talking about the action part.
The
What are
action,
the
yeah,
action
the
steps?
action,
What are
right.
the action steps? So yeah, there will be action steps, and I like the idea. Let's just handle one thing at
One
a time.
thing, yeah, ain't gotta be
One
a whole
thing. Let's
bunch
all
of stuff,
jump
yeah.
on this and see where we can go with that.
Right.
But you know, as you said earlier about the segregation piece, one of the truths that we have to come to with here in Little Rock, Arkansas, is that integration is probably one of the causes to what we're dealing with right
Right.
now, because it,
The illusion of
it was integration only in name, but it was more assimilation.
Right.
So and so we have to deal with that as well.
Okay. Well, I just want to say, no, I've done some work with Just Communities and Don and Denise, so I know what they're all about. I think that's legit. So
Y'all gotta go. All right, so we got to take the top of the hour break. When we come back, we'll have more from our guests, and I'll continue to be the contrarian. You know, and maybe some of me will rub off on Robert. He's being nice.
I'm not being nice.
No,
Just
It's just, hey, unfortunately, this just ain't the lane that I choose to drive in. But hey, it's cool. I like the lane.
all right, we'll take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get more information on this, and I've got to get to the Equal Justice Initiative as well, so I'm planning to do that also. Back in a moment. You listen to Black Focus Radio, our issues, our solutions. Our voices on
You right,
joinetradio.com.
D?
Yeah. He's got a meeting to get to.
Hey, man, good meeting you, man. Good job.
So much.
Appreciate
We
it.
meet with,
And I hope we can have.
All right,
this
thanks for coming
conversation
in.
again on the radio.
Okay.
yeah.
hey, do we meet with Denise at 1:30?
I think she said two. So she'll give me time.
You and say, hey, I didn't know you had a business. Yeah, that could happen when you don't have it.
That's right.
Advertise.
She said she'd get there
Go ahead,
around
radio.
2, so I'll go
And let
Okay,
the
let's be
world
there
know
by 2.
that you're in business.
We'll be there at 2.
I know what you're thinking.
I appreciate you coming in, man.
So expensive. I've got a great package for you that will at your expense and increase the bottom line. It's only
Hey, you brothers have a great show here.
Excuse me?
You guys have a great show.
Oh,
here.
thank you.
You gotta check your show out Tuesdays at 2, right?
Yeah, 2 to
And I
3.
put together a package specifically for your business. Now is the time to tell
Yeah,
the
by the way,
world, hey,
folks
I've
told me
been
to tell you,
business.
man, they
Come
don't like it,
spend
you don't
your
give out the
money.
number.
Quality
Say what?
goods in my
They said
store.
they didn't like it,
Let
they
us
give
help
out the
you
number during
at
the debate.
jointradio.com.
I didn't give out the number during the debate.
615-553.
Were they not paying attention?
We are here to assist
I did give out the
you
number.
in building your brand.
Hi, I'm attorney Felix Thompson from the Thompson Law Firm, and I want
They
to
still whining over the debate. We've only had 120 people to even actually vote. Did you know that? 120 people. Out of 16,000 registered voters, only 120 people have actually voted.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So there you go. Therein lies our problem.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I'm gonna say it again. I see your Ryan side. Who am I voting for? I mean, are they prepared themselves to represent us? No. Why would I go vote? You ain't
Ryan
thinking
has,
how
though.
Have
Have you read his platform?
The entire staff of Micheal Ford
Have you ever
takes
met him?
great pride in the caring personal.
I've known him for I'm just saying I've known him
I
for
love Ryan. You went straight to the microphone. No, it's all right. I love Ryan. This is the thing.
Mitchell Funeral Home, Arkadelphia.
No way you gonna get anything passed. No way you gonna get anything passed. So if you don't know any state organizations that you can work with.
One of the secrets he talked about,
you
when
ain't
he
get your
talked
homework.
about,
Because
I
you can't
will
get
give
no
you the
legislation
keys.
So you haven't done your homework.
the
And when they came on here, I asked them this one question.
Right.
I said, name
financial
me
future.
for housing. What was it? Housing. What else was it? Housing.
I don't know. It was your convoluted question.
That's
Housing.
Credit Solutions.
education, I think.
Education and economic development.
Economic development. Name me three state organizations you can work with to address the issue, to address those
Call
three
now
issues.
for a quick response.
501.
Nobody was able to answer.
We've had them on the show. We've had both of them on twice. We've had them on individually, and we had them on last Thursday.
You would have think the second time they would have been able to.
I would have thought the first time. I would never come onto the show knowing who I am and not
Right.
have something, right? But I mean, that's the thing. I was telling Dave, it's hard for me to really criticize them. Not everybody's had the time I've had, right? So it's hard for me to kind of criticize them. But the thing I've learned is, or the thing I've noticed, is that white people say, yeah, that's what y'all both up there.
Get 'em.
Nah, they said we already know you ain't ready. Yeah. So we ain't gotta worry about you.
Yeah.
Because if we don't understand how the budget works, because people talk about change. If you talk about changing government, you don't know about money, you don't know about budgets. You ain't doing no change. That's why you make change, knowing where the money is, what you can use it for. How can I take this money and direct it over here, right? That's how you make change. You don't make change by just getting elected. And I can say all the great things. That don't mean that, and we keep electing people who say stuff but don't do shit.
Yeah.
And then we understand why communities look like this. Why we having all these issues. Look at who you elect.
So who do you think?
And the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-56.
They haven't done anything. They haven't done the homework. You gotta do.
David W. Coleman.
You've been on your job for 5 years.
All right, we're back for the second hour of the show, having a great conversation
He's
today
popular.
with the Bays, of course.
Yeah, they in the house.
Doing a great job, and we'll continue that conversation until they have to leave. But we've been talking about the Equal Justice Initiative and bringing at least talking about sitting down at the table with people who don't look like you and trying to come to some type of consensus on how we can build bridges together. And I would say I apologize for being a contrarian, but I really don't. Because
Please don't.
this has been going on for years, people trying to come to the table. And I'm curious about the faith community, not just the black community, but the white faith community as well. Because I think that's where the solution lies. I also think that's where the problem lies.
I agree with you 100%.
Okay? So, because there are so many of us that are in church on Sunday mornings worshiping whomever, I would tend to believe that those would be the first people who would be willing to come to some reconciliation. But it seems to me that both sides are just as intransient as the other and talk about peace, love, justice, and all of that stuff, but really don't live it every day. So I asked you earlier, what response had you gotten from the Taliban evangelicals, as I call them? What? What did I say? Okay. What response are you getting from black church leaders? And just one other point, because I found, and I help people write grants, in fact, and I found that black churches now, that they have 501c3s, they steer away from racial issues. So what response are you getting from black churches, if any?
Well, the first response that we've gotten from the white church is Reverend Preston Clegg's church, Second Baptist Church in downtown. That's a church that they actually worked with the Social Justice Institute over at Philander Smith College to create a weekly race talks. That it was a 12-week process that happened it just ended right before Christmas, and so that congregation has been receptive in working with us, and there's actually several members of that congregation who we have already started these dialogues, and they're members of the coalition that we put together. As far as black churches,
So if my son bring their white daughter home, They all right with that?
I can't answer that.
I can't.
I'm just being.
We do know that,
Issues.
that those talks were done not only at their church, but they were done at,
In conjunction with Arkansas Baptist College.
with Arkansas Baptist College, so they were on the campus doing
They're
the
in
talks.
line store.
You were saying about black churches.
As far as black churches are concerned, we have reached out and tried to connect with several of the black churches here in Central Arkansas, and as of yet, not one of them has responded to.
The dickens you say?
Not one of them has responded to any of our emails or telephone calls. So,
Ain't that interesting?
Well, as far as churches go, like there are individual clergy who have responded
yes.
within the black churches or in our community who have agreed to be a part of the actual event on the 22nd, which is at the Ron Robinson, and then we'll do the screening, and then we'll do the interfaith panel. We really want you guys to be there because the question you just asked is really a question for them. And I know you being the, what do you call yourself?
The contrarian?
The contrarian? I was going to say irritant.
I'm good with that too. Rocking the shoe, baby.
Hey, the contrarian, you can definitely check because we'll have it open to the audience for asking them questions. So we want them to be able to, be accountable and just responsible, and also to take the information and create action and not just give us responses, but to let us know what their steps will be. I can give you a few, like Kwame said, Pastor Preston Clegg will be one on the panel. Malik Safir will also be on the panel.
Oh yeah, we know Malik.
Okay, Malik will be there. Well, you know his pedigree. He definitely does not run from any tough questions, especially concerning race and equity. And then we have a few more that we are still waiting on to get some information from, but we will definitely, we meet with Reverend Denise Donnell. We meet with her. She's one of the directors of the Human Rights Project. She's gonna kill me. Human Rights Project.
Human Rights Coalition.
Coalition. Thank you. Human Rights Coalition. And so we have a meeting with her, and hopefully she will be available for the panel. We ask that they bring their congregations to this event, so that it's on a Wednesday, so that we won't miss anything.
It's on Wednesday. That's on Bible study night.
Right, but
Bring the Bibles with them.
Bring
Have
it.
Bible study with us.
we're talking about racial issues, and it's a part of it. We talk about being in church. We got to get outside of church.
So let me ask you. I just want to
have
make
these
sure I
conversations.
understand what Dave asked. So Dave asked you how many black churches you contacted, and you
All
said,
of them.
Contacted several dozen.
and you got feedback from how many?
0.
You get that right?
No, I mean, I understand it. I mean, it's obvious. I mean, black churches aren't.
A bar gun is Scotty.
anything,
But we have to do better than that. That's what, and we
I
can't
wanna-
be afraid to have this conversation because it affects us.
Yeah, but we have allowed everyone to lower the bar when it comes to us.
Yes.
Everyone, all the way across the board, we've allowed them to do that. And so, while I should say I'm surprised, but I'm really not that they haven't reached out, because you think about all the things that have gone on in our city. We've had a ton of issues that you would think
Yes.
that the black church would be front and center on, and they have not.
They're
So
absent
I'm
without
not,
leave.
I'm not surprised by
Yeah.
that.
Well, what I would ask you two is, do you guys have any suggestions on how we can
Engage.
better engage them?
Pray. No, I'm just kidding. No, let me
Hold on a
stop.
second.
Without ceasing,
That ain't working,
Come on,
babe.
let me stop.
without ceasing, right?
You know what? I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna give you a number right now.
Yes, sir.
Wayne Newsom. Let me write his number down. I think you should call him. I know that their church would be very interested in something like this because it's my church. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
All right.
And reach out to Brother Davis's church, Bullock Temple. The church right across the street from Little Rock Central.
Yes, yes. I know.
Reach out to them.
Okay.
And I mean, but there's some smaller churches who I think would
We
really
have
be,
reached out to them.
who would really
And
be.
have you reached out to JC?
Yeah, JC Love. I forgot about JC.
Have you reached out to the owner of the station?
Yeah,
No.
you should
Okay,
reach out to JC.
well.
Write that down.
You
You
reach
need-
out to Jason?
You need to reach out to JC Love
Yeah.
as well.
But
Owner of
there
the
are a
station.
few people I think who would. There are a few people who I think would be supportive of this. But again, you know,
And name a couple of them president and acting president. You know, they like their names. You know,
call him a bishop.
Call them something.
Call him bishop.
No, we love our faith communities, and
Yeah, yeah.
we
Black
just
people.
gotta, we just really do have to, you know, we're in church and service, and we tend to talk about fear and not being afraid, but to me, being absent from this type of situation and this conversation is indicative of being fearful to me. And it's kind of hard to, I guess I'll have to look at it in a different lens, but our faith leaders have a responsibility to our communities. Oh my God.
Dang. Too late,
Shout
man.
out.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I would like to think, I'll just preface that our faith leaders have a responsibility to our communities.
Have you? Did you go to the St. Mark groundbreaking? You didn't? You should have. It was really interesting. It was. Stop it. It was really interesting.
Why would you ask her that question?
I'm just curious.
Did you go to St. Mark?
No.
You know,
No,
Okay.
their last name is Abdul Bey.
That does not mean that we're Muslim.
Oh, it
it
does?
sure does. That could mean that they're African.
Okay, fine.
Okay, my son's name is Akili Kari. He's not Muslim.
Yeah, but the last name is Coleman, though. So yeah, we know they're not Muslim.
What's it, Copenhagen?
Huh?
What's the last name?
Coleman.
Oh, Coleman.
He got a slave name. He ain't get rid of it. He's
It's-
holding on to our slave name.
No, it's coming.
But no, seriously, I asked that question because I always make the point. I went to their groundbreaking for their facility.
Mm-hmm.
They were getting ready to spend $5 million to build this nice, what do they call it, the place where kids could go play.
Mm-hmm.
And so you look at the stage, and there's nothing up there but white people, no black folk.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're getting ready to spend $5 million in your community, talk about the whole child. Don't talk about just building a facility for them to play in. I bet his daddy need a job. I bet his uncle need a job. I bet his mama need a job. You finna spend $5 million. Put that money into your community, but they ain't do that. And from what I hear now, they didn't even let kids from the neighborhood go to the facility. So there you go. But that's St. Mark, though. That's St. Mark.
Is that the church that had Tom Cotton
Yeah, that's
and
the one that had
Asa
Tom Cotton.
Hutchinson
Yeah, that's the one
at the
that
prayer
had
breakfast for Martin Luther
Come up
King
and speak.
last
Yeah.
year?
In the pulpit.
Is
That's the
that?
one. the
Oh,
one.
that's
Yeah,
them.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you know, on this show, we just call it like we see it. If you did it, you did it. And we ain't lying on you. Ain't like we making this up. It happened. It ain't a lie. It happened.
And that's the beautiful thing about this show.
Yeah, and you take your money on Sundays and give it to St. Mark, and then St. Mark take it to a white bank that'll turn you down for $100 loan. That's crazy.
I gotta get a
That's
nickel.
crazy.
Gotta get a brother, get a nickel, huh?
Yeah, but again, I know they're gonna call you back. I know the black church is gonna call you back, and the reason they're gonna call you back is because at some point somebody white will call them and say it's okay for you to participate, and they'll give you a call.
And he's not being facetious
No.
about
That's
that.
honest.
And that's what's
how
going.
Little Rock works.
That's how Little Rock
When white
works.
folk call black folk and say you can speak, go ahead and
The
speak,
5 years that I've been back,
but don't say nothing negative.
I have
Don't say nothing
been
negative.
I have been shocked at the lack of black leadership in this city.
All right, we
So-
can't be talking like this today.
So
It's
I
Monday.
applaud you all what you guys are doing, and just keep up the great work. I mean, I don't mean look, the life that I live. Hey, it doesn't apply to what y'all are doing. I will support you guys as much as I can.
Thank you.
If y'all got something going on that's of significance, let me know. We'd love to get you back on the show.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All of that stuff
And
because
we'll try not to be so black. next
No,
time.
no.
You know.
But no,
Please.
I actually would love to work with your show with that 28-day racial equity challenge.
Really?
Okay.
We should do something cooperative on the show.
Oh,
Okay.
dang.
All right.
Dude, y'all just trying to embarrass me because
No.
y'all know I ain't gonna make it.
Who is it?
You ain't go back. You ain't gonna graduate. Hey, you know, I'll start cutting
I
class.
believe, you know what? I'm sorry. I am just,
Mm-mm, don't apologize. You know,
I'm not really apologizing, but just to say it so people think I am.
Yeah.
I really don't give a damn. But the thing is that, you know, I love what y'all doing. And, you know, every time I hear somebody doing this, what's really interesting is that they're never black. They always have white people come and say, what are y'all gonna do? Well, we want black people to come in and tell us how they feel.
Yes.
Well, that's so neat. But you know, this is different. Even though Don was involved,
Yeah.
but, I mean, and I like what Don them do. So I give Don them props for that because I've sat in some really uncomfortable meetings with Don, and I like him for that. 'Cause
Yes.
the brother true, he true to it.
we like him for
He
that.
ain't
too.
always comfortable, but he true to it.
Yes, that's
And
why
so-
we like him.
I think what y'all are doing is different, and I'm just proud that black people doing it. There's black people involved. Usually the black people, you don't see them until you get to the event. Or you see them going out doing recruiting. They say, hey, can you come to these events? And then you have a bunch of white people who do the whole thing. So I'm telling y'all now, if I come to y'all's event and there's a whole bunch of white people, I'll be like,
Well, here's the thing: is
I'm just glad y'all doing something. with y'all
no, because it's important for me. It's important for me to say this because I always have to say this. So anytime there's an event that anything is going on, you have black folks who volunteer and all the white folks get paid. That irritates me.
Yes.
Me. It's like they treat me like a slave. You know, you have the white people, they getting paid. They say, oh yeah, I'm working with so.
They always invite the black choir.
We got a grant. We got a grant to do this.
Yeah.
And what we did is we went out and we recruited Abdul Beys to come in and bring some black folk. They were so nice to volunteer.
That sounds like that meeting we had at the chamber.
Exactly. We want to really give them a round of applause because they came in and volunteered. And they got all the black people to come out. How much they get paid? They didn't get paid nothing. They volunteered. You know, so that's what bothers me. So I just want to put that out there. If I come here, I got a whole bunch of white people. I'm gonna be 38 high
well, I'm glad you're
unless they
making,
volunteering.
you're making.
Put Robert on one of you all's panels.
No,
What he's doing is he's helping our community to get involved because typically in this type of setting there are more white individuals who come and support this type of thing than our black community
No, I'm saying-
members. And that's
Clean it up for me.
that's the sad part, and we really want to see our black and brown communities come out and support. We really do want to see that, and we want them to come because it is we're trying to memorialize victims of racial terror lynchings in our state, and they deserve our respect. And I like to say that because it's very important that they are respected. And for us not to show up and be, at least come to one or two, I know everybody's schedule is busy, but to not come and to pay respects, finally, to their lives, and even some have legacies, and I would say all, it's disrespectful. And so keep that in mind when you're trying to vacillate whether you want to come or you don't, or you even have an option. If you have the time, know that they deserve our respect.
And we can begin by having your listeners be there to make sure that the audience at our events are well represented with people that look like us.
I can't think of the name of the singer, but I know Donny Hathaway was a part of it. But you said, I apologize, I'm being very black. But you
No,
know,
I wasn't apologizing for that.
No, that's,
Oh,
I
that
never
was Sal
apologized.
Johnson.
I never apologized.
was it the Be Real Black for Me?
Yeah, I never apologized really.
You know the song I'm talking
Yeah, I
about?
thought you were talking about to be young, gifted, and black.
No.
No, that was Nina Simone.
Well, I don't really apologize for being black. It just is what it is. But the thing is, I mean, no. The point I always make is that every time I go to anything, even any organization that works with folks, that does things with folks, there's always a common denominator. There's always that one person there who does community outreach, but nobody else there is black. But the whole purpose of that organization is to work with people of color,
I've seen
deal with the issues in the black community.
have seen
And I think that's important that we as a black collective start pointing that out to folks that, hey, that ain't right.
Yes.
We need jobs too.
That's right.
Yeah.
So-
And the importance of telling our own story is always at the forefront of
That's
my
true.
mind. And that when the story is told, that it's told by someone who knows the history, and has family who's lived the history, and that it's a history from that person that it happened to, and it's okay to have, because I know a large number of white historians and teachers and educators, and they do a phenomenal job because it's their job to teach, and they are empathetic to the plight and the situation and all of those things. But to me, it's also important that we see us
Right.
in
Yeah.
this storytelling, and even in our healing processes. We need to be able to see each other. We need to be able to go to counselors that look like us and psychologists that look
Right.
like us.
Doctors,
Doctors,
lawyers, yeah.
People who work in trauma-informed care and things like that who look like us. And it's very helpful. And there's studies shown that, people who, our community that suffer from PTSD and things like that from being victims of racism have a hard time, because why do we want to go to a psychiatrist that the person that or the race that perpetrated the issues we now have to sit in front of and tell them what our issues are, but we can't be completely honest because I don't know if you relate to me or not.
I don't know.
And so that's a real thing. It's not, I'm not trying to be mean or, anything. It's a real situation that our communities deal with. But we just want to thank you guys for
Yeah, we know you all got to
giving
go.
us this
so.
platform, and we don't want to, we've been here long enough, and we just thank you so much.
Well, if we were tired of you, I'd have put you out a
I
long
know
time
you
ago.
would have. I
We
know
miss
you
no
would.
words here.
What we want to do, though, we want to leave you guys in the listening audience with the National Day of Racial Healing. That's our first event, and we really want your support.
You
And
got some sponsorships. Tell us about the
we
sponsorships.
want you guys to come out.
Is that right there? Is that sponsorships? Or is that something totally
No,
Okay, never mind.
that's us right now, budget stuff.
Oh, okay. I thought you had
But-
sponsors.
Because we're creating a budget to make sure we get paid.
Yeah.
Oh.
See?
There you go. There you go.
So we do
My
have
brother.
we do have some. We are working with the Social Justice Institute on the campus of Philander Smith College, and Tamika Edwards is the director there, and I have the privilege of working with her, and she has been a connector of many people for us in this, and so we're going to start at the State Capitol Rotunda. You do know that this, let me let you guys have this. This is the proclamation that was granted by the Governor Asa Hutchinson.
Your governor.
Name
Dave's
right.
home.
And that proclamation will be read by Judge Barry Hyde.
We're meeting with County Judge Barry Hyde today to confirm his attendance.
Okay, that's
So,
cool. Hey, do me a favor. Tell me what JPMM means.
APJMM is the Arkansas Peace and Justice Memorial Movement.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, because you kept saying it, and I was thinking,
Yeah.
what's that mean? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And it is going to be at the State Capitol Rotunda that morning, Tuesday morning, the day of the National Day of Racial Healing, January the 21st. It'll be at 9:30 a.m. till 10:30 a.m. And there will be just a few speakers, the reading of the proclamation and everything. That'll be happening, and that's a big deal.
And then there will be a special citation that the Secretary of State's office will be issuing in honor of the work of the late John W. Walker Sr.
That's what's up.
Have you all reached out to John Jr. to
Yes,
invite him?
he's going to be there. And
Good,
he's going to
good.
receive the
Okay.
citation.
Good.
Okay, cool.
And so that's the inaugural, and then later on, we wove in this whole thing on the campus of Philander Smith College. It will be a collegiate effort for all of the colleges to be involved in a writing workshop. It's called Art of Racial Healing, Poetry and Prose writing workshop, and that's led by Drika Wrights Morning. She is the one of the directors of the arts in the Arts Council.
She represents the Arkansas Arts Council, which is one of our partners.
Yes, and she's also a poet. So that'll be going on at Philinda Smith Tuesday. That's like that evening from 6 to 9. I would say 3:30 to 5:30 is the workshop. It'll be a light dinner from light dinner, and then 6 to 9 there will be a showing of True Justice here, and that's
Okay.
the HBO documentary film of
Brian Stevens.
Brian Stevenson. And then the next day, the second day will be at Cal's Run Robinson. That's Wednesday, January the 22nd, and that's at 6 p.m. From 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. There will be a special performance that we won't give away. But if you come, you'll be able to see it, and it will open the actual viewing, and then there'll be the interfaith discussion after that.
And all of this is free.
It is free.
We've done our work to make sure that everything was free and open to the public.
Okay, cool. So you're gonna call us back and remind us about these things
Sure.
as they come up? All right, cool. That's what's up.
All right. Hey, well, we know you guys got to go. We'll take a quick
Thank you.
break.
Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for coming in,
Thank you.
and keep pressing the flesh.
We will.
You know, and get them black churches involved. Keep calling.
Thank you.
You dirty.
I'm just saying.
Use that dirty.
They know I'm telling the truth.
Keep praying. Keep praying.
Yeah, right.
Keep praying.
Yeah.
One day's weeds be free. Keep praying.
Tell them you're gonna give them some tithes. They'll show
One
up.
day weeds be free, boss.
Tell them you're taking up an offer.
Boss, we sick.
We sick.
We sick.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break. We'll be back in a moment. I'm coming back. We're gonna play some. Since we're talking about racial healing, we got to play my girl. You know who I'm talking about, right? Jane Elliott. We got a little bit from Jane Elliott coming up here in just a moment. All right. Hey, we'll be back in a moment. It's called Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices, right here on JoynetRadio.com.
You know, I've interviewed her 8 times in my life.
Yeah, we've had her on the show too.
Yes. She's amazing.
She's good people.
She's
She's good people.
We gotta get you back after all this is all
Yes,
over.
indeed.
All right, man. Good to finally meet you.
Thank you.
Been seeing your posts on Facebook.
Yeah.
And we've had you on the show before, haven't we?
We've had class together. We did. You were doing the rubs.
That's right.
I was on massage therapy.
Yeah, okay. How you doing? It's a small world.
She's like, yeah, I remember you.
I remember
Yeah.
Talking all that
Hey,
trash.
and I want to tell you something. A lot of people don't know how important that hat is you're wearing.
Mm-hmm. I know.
That's peace.
Yeah.
That's peace.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Kwame, that's what's up. Give him one prop.
Thank y'all so much.
All right. See y'all later.
Our community, then join me, David W. Coleman, and my co-host, Robert Webb, for Black Focus Radio, every Monday through Friday, noon to 2 p.m. on Joy.
St. Mark's have a Facebook page.
Our issues, our solutions.
Yeah, they have a Facebook page, Tanya.
Podcast on your favorite platform. On YouTube.
What you gonna do on that Facebook page, Tanya? All right, don't be being unchristian.
Our voices on JoynetRadio.com.
Losing your
Hello
religion.
to Quality Time at Marco.
Yeah, I call them
Hello to being engaged.
the televangelism list. That's all they are.
Taliban.
And Asa, he is one of the slickest dogs. He's smooth. He's a smooth white supremacist. I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna talk about that when I come back. Cause you notice how he.
Let me give you a damn racial clean.
That's what I'm saying. And what you doing? What you really doing to black folks behind their back? He a smooth dog, man.
It's like, here, look at this hand while I punch you in your.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, boy. He's something else.
The entire staff of Micheal Ford takes great pride in the caring, personal, and professional service they offer. Cremations, funeral plans, burial policies, life insurance, notary, and monument sales are a few of the services we offer. Micheal Funeral Home, Arkadelphia, 870-246-2611. Micheal Funeral Home. Quality you can appreciate, service you can depend on.
I'm so glad I found the Kick Above. It's like my very own personal training studio. A Kick Above removed the guesswork and intimidation and offered me a very supportive and structured environment specific to my personal goals. Kim Leverett and her certified personal trainers even offered nutritional guidelines for my personal workout. It's about me at a Kick Above. Call Call 501-868-8850 or go to akickabove.com. Now, what am I wearing tonight? Thanks to A Kick Above, I look marvelous.
Hi, this is Alvin from Habibi's 4317 East Broadway in North Little Rock. We still have the green top at your very next stop. The same great service, but more on it. Give us a call, 501-663-1553 or 664-2992. Or call our toll-free number, 1-877-HABIBI-1. Diapers, pull-ups, hospital beds, wheelchairs, Simply Fit, diabetic supplies, underpads, and more. Your Duodo Medical Supply Center.
Hey, this is Reggie Swinton, former Dallas Cowboy football player, and I'm starting my own radio show with co-host Mike Nichols called Wide Open. We will be talking about youth football and all other sports dealing with the youth. This is one show you do not want to miss. Join me every Wednesday from 7 to 8 p.m. Myself and Mike bring you the latest and greatest news on the youth around Central Arkansas, around the state of Arkansas, right here on JoyNetRadio.com.
I don't know.
Are the ones who originated or who founded every major religion on this earth. No white people have ever founded a major religion. Now you need to realize the contributions that have been made to society, to civilization, by brown-eyed people, by people of color. I'm talking about people of color. And most of us are not aware of those things because we live in a racist society and because we are educated by a racist school system that only teaches us about white contributions. And that's a fact. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. If we would start telling the truth in schools, we would not have racism. We could cure racism in this country. Somebody said, I heard somebody...
Call me Scotty.
I heard somebody in the green room say that racism is inbred. No, it is not. Racism is not part of the human condition. Racism is a learned response. You have to be taught to be a racist. You are not born racist. You are born into a racist society. And like anything else, if you can learn it, you can unlearn it. But people like this choose not to unlearn it because they're afraid they will lose power if they share it with other people. We are afraid of sharing power. That's what it's all about. That's the reason men won't share power with women because they are afraid they will lose power. People, if we would share power, we would empower many people so that we would all be more powerful. What we're dealing here with is mental illness. Racism is mental illness. Racism was defined by the Joint Council on President's Joint Council on Mental Health in Children in 1959 as being the #1 mental health problem among children in the United States. And they didn't say among black children, they said among children. So if you judge other people by the color of their skin, by the amount of a chemical in their skin, you have a mental problem. You are not dealing well with reality.
That's the great Jane Elliott. We got to get her back on the show, she and her daughter. I've just been amazed at the things that she says and does, but she speaks truth. Want to thank the Bays for coming in today. Of course, they are promoting the National Day of Racial Healing in the state of Arkansas. I wish them well. I didn't want to be a doubter, but I've lived in this country 58 years now, and I've seen things regress, not progress.
Yeah, I believe. I
You
like
know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I like what they're doing.
Yeah, I like what they're doing, and I help.
Hopefully it'll catch on. I mean, hopefully, I think with them too, though. I think we'll see some traction. And plus, Don, what Don and Just Community do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I can see that. I can see that actually catching on just because of the work they do. So, I believe it. I might believe it might have some.
Good for them.
It might be all right, Blair.
I want to make sure we leave some time to talk about your favorite police officer. But I just want to talk a little bit about this proclamation that Asa Hutchinson had signed. Okay? So, and I'm not going to read it because I think it's a bunch of crap.
You can't say that, Dave.
Okay?
He signed a proclamation. It was a positive thing.
Look, Asa Hutchinson is one of the biggest liars in this state. And I ain't letting him pass.
How can you say that? He signed a proclamation.
So okay,
so
I'm gonna use Robert's logic.
You mean
okay,
Robert Webb?
Robert Webb's logic. When you breaking bread for our black community? Okay, you want to debate that?
No, I don't.
Okay,
I don't.
You want to debate that, Robert?
I'm done.
You want to debate? You can sign every damn piece of paper you want, Asa Hutchinson.
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, but at the end of the day, you are no better than any of these other bigots out here because you're doing things to destroy the black community. Let me ask you something, Asa. What have you done for the state of Arkansas and the black community? Can you name one except sign a damn proclamation?
So are you saying that private prisons are good for the black community?
Oh, it's good for his pocket. Come on, man. Y'all need to quit. These people in Arkansas, let me just say this. I done got on my soapbox. Y'all have allowed Asa Hutchinson to rub on your butts, and all y'all do is say thank you. That's what y'all have allowed Asa to do. Because Asa is not for the benefit of black people in this state. Okay? In fact, no Republican is. But he has the power to change a lot of things as it relates to racism. But what is Asa doing? The number one thing Asa is doing is allowing Walmart to destroy your schools. Your schools.
David,
What, Rob?
well, people can't come on our show and you bash the people who are associated with the
Asa ain't associated with them.
He signed the proclamation.
Who cares? Asa is a joke, and I'm tired of
We have
him.
to be nice, Dave.
Okay.
You can't do that.
I'm sorry, but
Apologize to Asa right now. Apologize to Massa. Apologize right now, Dave. But no, I think we're supporting the work that they're doing, man, because they're doing some good
I'm
work.
supporting them. I'm not supporting Asa Hutchinson. This is all. Let me go sign this. This ain't gonna signing the proclamation ain't gonna do nothing.
Making a day
Okay,
after.
is there a fiscal note attached to this proclamation?
There is not.
Is Asa gonna spend one red dime in the black community?
Maybe they'll put some money with it later at some point. But just because he did that, maybe they'll put some money with it later. Let's hope. Okay, Dave, don't look at me like that, man.
See,
you know what? When I'm trying to be positive, man, why you look at me like that? When I try to be positive, you look at me crazy, and when you try to be positive, you look at me crazy because you should believe me. Why is it just you cannot be positive, but I got to be positive when you want me to?
Let me answer that question.
Help me understand, player.
Do you think Asa Hutchinson has your best interest at heart?
I don't think any elected official, any politician of either party has my best interest.
We ain't talking about either party.
No, because they got to be fair.
Okay.
It's all about being fair.
Okay,
It's
but
all about being fair.
the other party didn't sign a fake ass proclamation.
It don't matter. But still, I don't think either party has our best interest at heart. So, Dave, at the end of the day, Asa did a good thing. You got to give a man props when he does something positive. You got to give a man props. You can't beat him up.
What's good about this?
Well, at least he signed the proclamation.
What's going to come out of this?
And he was the only one. He's the only one who's done it in the 50 states. You got to give him credit for that. You got to, Dave. You got to give him his props for that. Why?
Asa is padding his pocket to run for president.
I wouldn't doubt it.
So,
but you got to give a man his props though.
I ain't giving him nothing. Okay. Until you start actively doing things for the black community. You gotta be fair. I ain't giving. I'm being fair.
That's not being fair.
Right now, how's that not being fair?
Because the brother signed a proclamation.
Who cares? I can sign a damn proclamation. What are you doing?
It don't mean that you sign it. It means something the government signed it.
Right. So what? It's like throwing a rock and hiding your hand.
But then signed the proclamation.
You get a brick thrown through your window, and you look out the window, and Asa walking up the street. Hey, Asa, did you see who threw that rock? No, I didn't see it.
Man, that's cold. No, my point is...
He's Smedley. You remember Smedley? That's who he is, that little dog that always got in the mischief. And then when you turn your back, he be... Come on, man. I ain't buying that Asa crap. I'm done. I'm done with him. Period. Okay. Last 3 minutes, I want to talk about the police. Okay? Because I want to know, what does it take to fire a police officer in Little Rock? Can someone tell me? Is there someone in the audience who can call up and say, okay, Dave, here's what a police officer needs to do to get fired? Because since I've been back, I'm going to be honest with you. I've heard some of the outlandish stuff that police officers are doing, black and white. I mean, have you heard about the sex ring of the Little Rock Police Department? I mean, if the public know about it, the brass has got to know about it. Come on, man. But I say all this to say that, before we left for New Year's Eve break, one of the things that I talked about was do not go outside and fire a weapon into the sky. And I told you two stories, one that happened in Memphis and one that happened in Nashville. The one in Memphis, a little boy ended up getting killed. And fortunately, and by the way, that bullet came all the way from East Memphis, and it ended up in South Memphis and killed this little boy. Okay? Now, the reason they know that is because somehow or another, they were able to trace the bullet.
They traced the bullet. From West Memphis to South Memphis?
It came from East Memphis, somewhere in East Memphis.
Was it a high wind?
I don't remember the details, but they somehow or another traced the bullet and found the shooter. And it was the actual shooter. But it ended up killing this little boy.
Was he white or black?
He was black. South Memphis is black.
And what's in East Memphis? Black folks?
That was white folks back in that day, during that time. In Nashville, we were actually at Pops on the River for 4th of July. And this lady ended up, when the fireworks went off, people started shooting, and she felt a ping on her right shoulder and looked down, blood was just pouring out of her. And when they got her to the hospital, sure enough, she had been shot from probably someone who had shot up in the air. Okay? So the point being, and I gave y'all this long soliloquy about gravity and physics. Y'all remember that?
Yeah, what goes up
must come down. What goes up must come down. All right? So if you're firing a weapon in the air, you are taking a chance on killing someone that you don't know anything about. All right? I grew up in a home. My mother's house was one of the first homes that had aluminum siding. And I became aware of this one New Year's, I think I was 9 or 10 years old. And on New Year's Eve, we were up. And when the bullets started coming down, all you heard on that aluminum siding was ping, 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 ping. I mean, it's real. So why the hell would someone who is sworn to uphold the law, Micheal Ford, go out in his yard on New Year's Eve and unload an automatic weapon where they're saying it was 40 to 60 shots in the air? Why would he do that?
Hey, man, so this is what I always say, right? This is what I say about the NBA, the NFL, the MLB, the Hockey League, the police department, and the fire department, right? These cats got jobs, but they human like everybody else, and they do dumb stuff too. They do. We all do dumb stuff, and they do too. Unfortunately, when we do it, we're held accountable, but they aren't. But we all do dumb stuff. We all do stuff that we regret we did. But the only difference is they're held accountable. We're held accountable, they're not.
I can't pass that off on doing dumb stuff.
We all do dumb stuff like that. Or at some point,
if he did it that night, he's done it before. Okay?
Probably.
That ain't dumb stuff.
Probably.
Okay?
But
here's the caveat to that. Is that you are a trained police officer who deals with weapons every day of your life. That's why I can't buy the argument that I thought it looked like a gun. Well, damn, you wear a gun on your hip. How the hell does a cell phone or a banana look like a gun? Okay? I'm not giving him a pass on being dumb. Being dumb is a regular guy. A police officer. Now, look, I can't give you a pass on shooting once. But according to the report, he unloaded 40 to 60 rounds.
Yeah. He was trying to kill it, though.
You see what I'm saying? So my question is, what does it take to fire a police officer? I'm just asking. What does it take to fire a police? Because that is illegal. That's discharging a weapon in city limits. And you were not on duty. What does it take? Last week Russ gave us the news about the drug dealing, the drug using cop from Benton. who beat up his wife. What does it take? I mean, come on. Well, we could say, well, you got to kill somebody, but we know that ain't true either anymore.
No, killing somebody won't make you lose your job.
So maybe we in the wrong profession.
Well, we should all be policemen. Yeah, we can break the law and do whatever we want to do.
Maybe that's what we ought to do. Maybe we.
But you know, this is what I love, though, right? So you always hear other people talk about you need to set an example, right? But they don't tell us the police. Like,
The Little Rock Police is a terrible example.
you know, there's some guys who are on the Little Rock Police. I know them personally, and like I said, Dave, everybody's human, man. Everybody makes mistakes, right? But the thing is that when I make a mistake, or you make a mistake, or somebody in our listening audience, when they make a mistake, they're held accountable for their mistake. Police officers, however, aren't.
Because they're not human.
Because they have a union.
They're not human.
They have a union.
They're not human.
They have a union.
They're not human.
They have a union.
They are, you know
have a
what?
union.
I believe they got a robotic chip planted in their brains. We need to start looking at the backs of their neck. Because this doesn't make any sense to me, man. I mean, have we gotten to a point in society? You know, they say the president isn't above the law, but police apparently are. And that ought to disturb us all. That ought to concern whether you black, white, purple, or lavender. A police officer can come in your community, kill you, and there are no repercussions.
A police officer seems can do anything and there are no repercussions. But the thing is how is it I have to be a law-abiding citizen, but he doesn't?
That's the question I'm trying to get to.
I think we should pose it to Chief. I think we should ask Chief that.
I mean, because at some point, because what's happening over the last couple of weeks in Little Rock alone with these police?
Yeah.
I mean, what is going on? How is it that these guys continue to keep as a taxpayer, I don't want my taxpaying dollars going to someone that's on the police department that is doing illegal activity.
Yeah.
I just don't.
Okay, how are you going to stop it, though?
Good question.
Shopping Norfolk Route.
They just as bad over there.
It ain't the point. The point is, Little Rock love that money. They love that green. Stop giving them that green.
Man, I'm
That's
just.
their hard saying.
This is just ridiculous, man.
No, they don't be upset.
I mean, come on.
They don't be upset.
And then what's bad about it, he was doing it out there in the white folks' neighborhood.
They don't be upset. Stop, Dave. Dave, I'm telling you, don't be
Now,
upset.
let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Now, I ain't trying to be mean.
Okay.
Had that been happening on 18th and Battery, would he have?
His ass be locked up.
You think he would?
Flat out. He would have locked somebody up for it.
Yeah, he would have locked somebody up for
But
it.
the thing I love about police.
But you know, there was a white guy who called police on him,
So let me tell you
who was a former sheriff.
Let me tell you this. Let me tell you what's crazy, right? So when I can't remember once they pulled Ken over or something, and they said he identified himself as a city director, and I was like, oh, ain't that what police do? Just like he told dude, I'm a police officer, MF, right? I'm a police officer, right? Don't y'all do it? Why wouldn't other folks do it if they got the title? Why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
It's just amazing the double standards. That's what always amazes me about them. They constantly have these double standards. And for me, how can we trust the people who are supposedly there to enforce the laws if they're constantly breaking them themselves? Now, I say this again. Just like the NBA, the NFL, the MLB, the NHL, and Hollywood, all these people are human just like us, and they make mistakes. What can we say?
No.
Right? But the only difference is when we make mistakes,
that wasn't a
we have to
mistake,
serve the
Robert.
consequences.
That wasn't a mistake.
Well, I'm not saying his was a mistake.
He willfully broke the law.
He willfully broke it. I don't disagree. But
Okay.
the point is, Dave, you're just being too harsh, Dave.
When you beat up on your wife,
When I beat up on her, what?
you willfully break the law, and you should be suffering the
She
consequences.
should have minded.
Okay.
I'm just kidding, Mama. I'm just
Okay.
kidding.
See. Here, take this Ace. Since you're so in love with Ace, take his proclamation.
I'm gonna let you keep that.
Take it to the bathroom with you.
I'm gonna let you keep that.
You know, it's in case you get stranded.
I'm gonna let you keep that one.
All right, man. Take it easy. We'll
All right,
talk to you
bye.
tomorrow. I'm just saying, man. What is wrong with police that they think that they can get rid of? They can just abdicate their responsibility. Look, in my opinion, police ought to be held to a higher standard because they are purveyors of the law. At least they're supposed to be. So when they break the law, the book should be thrown at them. They shouldn't get a slap on the wrist. Because if they knew that, then you would have less police brutality. You would have less police running afoul of the law. But typically what happens is that if they get fired, then they get to retire with their pensions. They get retired. They don't get fired and lose everything. I don't understand that. And I don't understand how we as citizens, regardless of what race, creed, or color you are, can continue to allow this to happen. How dare you go out in your yard and empty your chamber 60 rounds of ammo in the sky without the regard of any knowing where those bullets will land? Even if it doesn't hit anybody, it could potentially damage property. Somebody probably has a damaged windshield now. Someone probably has a hole in their roofs now. No telling what potential damage you firing 60 rounds in the air has caused, let alone the potential of it possibly killing someone. Makes no sense. It just doesn't. And he should not get a pass. But he will. And if that doesn't disturb you all, nothing will. Nothing will. Because I already know that when the young black males get killed, that doesn't disturb you. This is crazy, man. What is going on with the Little Rock Police Department? Those are your tax dollars. Every city employee is being paid off of our dime. That's why I have no patience when I go to a city office and you're nasty to me. Because I'm going to ask for your supervisor. You know why? Because I'm paying your salary. If I'm going to DMV and I've waited 2 hours to get a license, you better be all smiles and lollipops when I get to the counter. I don't care how tough your day has been. I don't care how long it's been. I don't care if your goldfish drowned and your dog ran away. At the end of the day, I'm paying you for a service through my tax dollars. There is no such thing as government funding. It's taxpayer funded. And I expect police to respect that. We got to do a better job in society. We just simply have. We got to stop giving these guys passes. And I'm hoping, although I doubt it'll happen, because if a man can get his job back for murdering somebody, I'm sure they ain't going to do nothing about someone firing at stars in the moon. Maybe he was trying to kill the man in the moon. But hey, it doesn't matter. They don't care. That's pretty clear. And you ask the question, why people don't respect police. Duh. Dog bites man. I'm just saying. We got to get out of here. I want to thank everybody for joining the show today, and certainly our guest as well. We've got another guest on the 16th. I think you'll find that interesting also. I'll give you some information on that tomorrow. Be sure to join us tomorrow. Join JC Love on the JC Love Morning Show in the morning, bright and early at 6 a.m. And join me at 12 to 2 p.m. tomorrow evening as well. Hope you enjoyed the show. It's our issues, our solutions, our voices every day. Who will tell our story? We will here on Black Focus Radio. And as I go, just remember, voting 100% more effective than complaining on the internet. Y'all have a great day.
You've been listening to Black Focus, where we discuss our issues with our solutions and our voices. Join us every weekday afternoon at 1 p.m. on jointradio.com.